Hi there! Emily Midget here with you today for Ellen Hutson, sharing my second installment for the new Exploring with Emily series. In this series, I will be sharing lots of different tips and techniques with you on how to make the most of your coloring mediums. Today, I'm focusing on different ways to color snow. Coloring white can be intimidating, but I have 3 different techniques to share using colored pencils, Copics, and watercolors with the new Snow Buds set from the October release from Ellen Hutson. So let's get started with the details. For my first snowman, I wanted to show how easy it can be to create that light shadow on a white object. When coloring white, it is important to note that an object that appears to be white actually has hints of many different colors because it picks up pale reflections of the colors nearby. I like to use purple for shadows, and when combined with gray creates a very subtle but essential shading to give shape to your object. Your colorless blender is essential when coloring white with Copics. One of my goals when coloring is to create as smooth and seamless a blend as possible, and when coloring white, the colorless blender marker is essential to smoothing that sharp line on the edge of your shadow. For this snowman, I begin by laying down the C0 around the edge of the bottom half of the snowman, following the natural curve of his body, then add a smaller amount of the V22 in the same way. I use my C0 to blend the line between the V22 and C0, then use my colorless blender to smoothly dissipate that edge that was created with the C0. Coloring white is achieved by allowing the white of the cardstock to remain prominent and adding hints of shadow, and the colorless blender achieves that for you. For my second project, I wanted to show how you can achieve a chalkboard look on your snowmen by using your colored pencils very quickly and simply to add some reverse shading. As I mentioned earlier, allowing the white on the snowman to remain prominent is an important element in creating those shadows. To create this chalkboard look, you use an almost reverse shading method, adding white pencil where you want shadows, concentrating the white pencil where the shadows are deeper, while tapering the intensity of the pencil off towards the center of the snowman's belly. When creating a chalkboard style project, I also like to add different gradations of white. The white pencil and the white pigment ink achieve a chalky effect, while adding white gel pen or white embossing achieves a more painted effect. The different intensities of white help to add a bit of interest and to authenticate the chalkboard feel of the project. When coloring on dark cardstock with Prismacolor pencils, I first like to lay down a layer of white pencil, as I've done on the hats, and then color over that with the colored pencils. The white layer helps to keep the intensity of the colored pencils on the dark background, but I will have more information on that technique in a future video. For my final project, I used my Daniel Smith watercolors to do some no-line watercoloring on the sweet little snowman. Using watercolors to add shading on the snow is similar to the Copic shading techniques shown earlier. Leaving the paper predominantly white with just a hint of shadow creates that lightly shadowed effect, but I also chose to add a halo of bright blue, which further emphasizes the contrast between the bright blue and the white snowman. I began by stamping the snowman on Arches cold press watercolor paper using Ink on 3 fade out ink. I didn't bother to mask because the saturated watercolor mostly covers any overlapping lines. As with all no-line watercolor, the key is to keep the wet sections apart so as to prevent the colors from bleeding into each other and making the sharp, crisp lines fuzzy. This is particularly important for this white image as you don't want the colored sections of the scarf or hat to bleed into your crisp white snowman's body. For the shadows on the snowman, I used Daniel Smith's Shadow Violet. I lay down a very diluted section of color, then blend out with a clean, wet paintbrush. Using lots of clean water allows the white of the watercolor paper to still be the prominent color on the snowman's body. I don't want to add too much color to start because I can always easily add more color and shadows if necessary, but it is difficult to take them away, particularly when trying to watercolor a white image. Adding a minimal amount of color to your white image is essential for keeping those images a true white. I frequently turn my cutting board, which I've propped at an angle slightly using a roll of washi tape, allowing gravity to help pull the color out naturally. After allowing the white sections of the snowman to dry, I added some phthalo turquoise to the hat and scarf, mixing in some Payne's gray to the turquoise to add another layer of shadows. I also add a few touches of Payne's gray beneath the snowman to create some shadows. Once his accessories were dry, I added a few more layers of shadow violet to help deepen the shadows a bit. To further emphasize the bright white body of the snowman, I decided to add some vibrant blue sky behind the snowman. To create this, I simply drop in some bright, undiluted phthalo blue around the edge of the snowman, then use my clean, very wet paintbrush to pull the color out, frequently cleaning my brush to create that loose, watercolored feel and to create a smooth fade to clear. I keep dropping in the undiluted color and maneuvering it around with my wet paintbrush until I'm satisfied with the saturation and blend. This super bright blue also helps to make that little white snowman belly pop even more. Well, that's all for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this little exploration into different ways to color snow using various mediums. It just takes a few touches of color to add some light shadows on your white images to make them look more dimensional. Thanks so much for watching, and have a marvelous day.